So sure enough, 3 weeks into searching for homes, I find my own first property. I thought, jackpot, I'm going to do this every week, every 2 weeks. This is going to be it. But I tell you, after that first deal, Mitch, it became tough.
This is Mitch, and welcome to the Real Estate Investor Summit podcast. I got a former bodybuilder on the line who said, you know what, I need to make some real money and do this as a hobby. So he goes out after and finds wholesaling and real estate in general, applies that discipline that he learned in his bodybuilding efforts, and he applied that same kind of discipline to real estate, narrowed it down into some expertise in wholesaling, and he's been doing it for 3.5 years. And we're going to talk about just how far this man's gone in 3.5 years. It's really an incredible story. Nice guy too. I was just talking to him before the show. You're going to enjoy this one. How are you doing today, Paul?
I'm great, Mitch. Thanks for having me on. How you doing, man?
I'm doing good. How's the weather in Southern California?
Perfect, beautiful. It's doesn't get any better.
Makes me sick.
As always, I haven't seen rain in months over here.
Over here, we can fry an egg in our hand, you know.
Right.
So I'm intrigued about your story, and also some of the tools that you've used, because we live in a world where things that are possible today weren't even possible even 10 years ago. You know what I mean? By the way, if y'all hear a bunch of racket in the background, it's because there's being some work done at this house. And I have two choices. I can tell them to be quiet and the work can stop, or we can just live through the background noise every now and then. So if you see a hammer or something fly across the back of my head, that's what's going on. So 3.5 years. Tell me a little bit about your background first. Tell us who Paul Del Pozo is and what built him.
Well, man, I'll tell you, I'm a Northeast native. Grew up and was raised in that New York, Fairfield County, Connecticut area. Bounced around a lot there, moved around a lot. First generation American. Both my parents immigrated here to this country.
From where?
Well, my mother was from Guatemala. And my dad's from Ecuador. So thankfully, they found themselves here and had me, and were able to give me some great opportunities and some good starts. And I was able to be a part of some good schools. But, you start going down that path, you start getting into high school, start trying to figure out, what is it that I'm going to do in life, right? And you start going down that course that you see all your peers going. You start going to college, trying to figure out what's the next step. And, people ask, what do you want to be? And, you just say whatever is the hot thing in your head that moment, but maybe not really with that much passion, right? And you're just still trying to figure yourself out. I was 18, 19, 20 years old. I had no idea what I was doing. So I ended up going to college. I spent 2 years of really learning how to, be a professional, probably drinker and partier at the time. I really wasn't applying myself well in connecting. And through all that time, you start feeling bad. You're like, oh man, what am I doing wrong, right? So 2 years into college, I say, enough is enough. So I'm out of here. I took off. I actually started working for myself. I didn't know what being an entrepreneur was. I didn't know any of that. I had no experience. My parents weren't entrepreneurs. They worked for, companies. Nobody ever presented this to me. So none of that was in my early life. But I always had this itch to do my thing or work or try new things.
What were some of the entrepreneurial endeavors you tried?
Right. So right when I got out of, that college period, I started doing computer consulting. I basically had my own computer, network break fix business. I was servicing, a private residence or small business, doing networking, fixing computers. So I had my own business, right? I mean, I just got gigs, went out, fixed them, and I got paid. And that started to, kind of become more of a thing. It was never a solid business where I had envisioned this whole thing going. It was just what I was doing at that moment. Before I left college, kind of not skip a little bit, I did, get dragged into the gym. You start going to college and your roommates say, oh, let's go to the gym, start working out. At the time, I really wasn't into that, but I got dragged in, started working out. And that was kind of a hobby that I started falling into while I was in college, which I continued to do, once I was out of college. And I said, you know what? Let me try being a trainer. So I became a personal trainer, tried that gig for a little while, bounced around a whole bunch of different gigs. This whole time, I'm still working out. I'm still finding the discipline that working out and fitness and the regimen it takes to really kind of stay in shape, right? What those lessons were kind of what they were carving out for my future, which I didn't even know, right? They were just kind of being these fundamentals that I was learning and studying and repeating. So as I fumbled through my early 20s and trying to find businesses and jobs, tried this job, try that job, I just wasn't really happy. But in the time being, lifting and bodybuilding became more of a thing. I ended up becoming a bodybuilder. That led into working in the sports nutrition industry. So I actually managed for a large company out there. I was a territory manager for the Southeast, managed accounts. But Mitch, I tell you again, I had that itch. I was like, this didn't feel right? Like I wanted to do something else. I knew I had entrepreneurial like itches, right? Like I knew I needed to kind of explore this, but I didn't yet have that avenue or that direction.
Your story sounds a lot like my story. How old are you?
37.
Okay, because I didn't find my butt with both hands till I was 36. I did not find real estate till I was 34, 36. Now, not to say that I hadn't dabbled in it before, but I'd bought my own place and I sold my own place in my early 20s. But I was buying it because I wanted to own something. I wanted to live in it. I wasn't buying it. I wasn't actively or knowingly investing. It turned out to be good investments later on, I found out, which is part of the light bulb that started to go off. But it sounds a lot like your journey and my journey are almost the same. I went to 2 semesters of college. I have a stack of business cards where I failed miserably at all different kinds of business, mostly because I was undercapitalized and under knowledged, about, just like you said, about the ways of entrepreneurship. Right. It takes a little time to get your skin thick, doesn't it?
Yeah, you don't know what you don't know, right? Like you have these feelings of wanting to do your own things, but you're not really sure where to go. And eventually I was looking for that next step, and you know how the internet is, you kind of do some searches, whatever it may be. And next thing you know, you're getting hit by join this webinar, join this. So sure enough, I said, you know what, let me check out this real estate thing. I mean, I always hear you can get large sums of money. All these other businesses that I've been doing, these jobs I've been doing, you're always very limited in what you can earn. Let me look at this stuff. So sure enough, I jump on a wholesaling webinar. And bing! I'm like, wow, I think I can figure this stuff out. So what do, Mitch? I go and I get a pre-foreclosure list, probably about a week or two later. A long list of homes in pre-foreclosure auctions coming up, and I start knocking on doors because I thought in my mind, I don't know how to get these homes, but if I can go out and actually grab them with my own hands and actually talk to people, I can reel one in, right? That was my thought. So I go out there knocking on doors, scared. My boots are shaking out. I was terrified of, I don't know what, imaginary things in my head. Knocking on doors. 1 week goes by, 2 weeks goes by. Week 3, Mitch, knocking on the door. Guy opens up. He was in pre-foreclosure. He had a couple weeks till his house was about to be auctioned. He had no solution. He was just kind of like an ostrich, head in the dirt, trying to wasn't even trying to figure out a plan. And I was there to fix his problem. So sure enough, 3 weeks into searching for homes, I find my own first property. I thought, jackpot, I'm going to do this every week, every 2 weeks. This is going to be it. But I tell you, after that first deal, Mitch, it became tough, right? That's where I really had to kind of, buckle down and say, what do I really want? I've proven that I can do this. I want to get into this business. Now let's buckle down. Let's focus.
How much did you make on your first deal?
First deal was a $15,000 wholesale flip. So
not
it
bad.
Was a pretty good deal. Yeah. I mean, it came to life and it proved it to myself. Pulled me right in. That's it. Hook, line, and sinker.
Yeah. So, really the only way to do that, I think, is the way you did it, was knock on the doors. But you get people screaming at you too sometimes.
It happens. Yeah.
Yeah, you got to, it's just another day. You know what I mean? So for people that have been doing it, you learn how to say goodbye and say next, next.
I think that the biggest things when you start, it's all the fears in your head. You're not really sure the process of things, your contracts or how to, all the components of getting deals done.
That's
you
really
start
what slows people
overthinking.
down, is the anxiety of like, I don't really know what to do next, or I don't know. And that just, even though what to do next is not the problem, it still hampers you tremendously. So having a coach or someone to talk to that's done it 1,000 times really relieves the anxiety from a lot of people of the process. You know, one of the things that a good coach should do is keep people from getting overwhelmed with things that they don't need to think about right now. Like, I have people all the time calling me and say, so how do you sell a note? I said, let's don't worry about selling a note. Let's figure out how to buy a house first.
Exactly.
Okay, when I get the house, how do I sell it? I said, don't worry, I know how to sell a house, but let's worry about getting a house first. You know, we'll worry about it. We call it just-in-time learning. We'll worry about it when it's time to learn it. And then you'll learn it by doing it. And that's how you're really going to learn it. So there you are. Got your first house. You make $15,000, but then you said it gets really tough after that.
Yeah, because again, you don't really know things. You don't know what you don't know, so you're not sure about marketing. You don't know how much marketing to apply. I was undercapitalized at that point. I didn't know how to make it consistent. I got caught up in the fact, oh wow, this is a great deal. You let some time off. You don't keep going forward. And these are the things where you're starting to fail forward, right? Like, you start to look back. I remember there were some months right when I started this, like, wow, man, what am I doing? Like, why isn't this working? But, I wasn't applying myself the right way. I was focusing on busy work. I wasn't really focusing on, finding leads, the important, the bloodstream of finding houses, which is leads, working the leads, putting offers out. And I hadn't learned that. And really what made a difference for me is really getting involved in networking. And not just with other newbies, but really like reaching out to folks that were more advanced than myself, seeing what they're doing. I have a sports background, as I've said, and really having to coach and being surrounded around other athletes that were better than me always made me kind of strive to follow their footsteps. And that's what I did with this business. I looked out, I looked for the champions in the business and tried to model what they were doing. And by default, if you're surrounding yourselves with folks that are successful, are on the right path, that are positive too, there's a lot of negative, people out there. You start to pick up, you start to learn, they start to guide. Of course, you take it to the next level with masterminds or more advanced coaching and things like that. But that's really how I started to kind of progress because, like I said, that after that first deal, it was tough. I really needed to get the fundamentals. I really needed to take it serious. And if I wanted this to become this next chapter in my life and not a hobby, I needed to put the work in.
Okay, so there's this, if I'm hearing you correctly, you're saying you've got to narrow it down to the important skills, which is the skills of finding houses and selling houses, mostly. Maybe in the middle there's finding money. Everything besides that is busy work. That's what you got to put an hourly rate to everything. And, if you want to make $100 an hour, you can't be doing $5 an hour tasks or $10 an hour tasks. So you figure that out, and you figure out that you have to stay in the money making department and not in the busy work department. But then, did you find some technology, or did you sink into some technology? Because usually it's hard to do this business without technology these days. It can be done.
Yeah, it can be done. I don't think it's probably the smart way to go about it. I mean, there's so many.
It's the poor way to go about it. But if sometimes you don't have a choice, that's all you got.
Right, right.
I was dead broke too. Like, I think everybody starts broke. I think that if you really learn the business from the bottom up, you have to start broke, because you have to learn how to do the business without any money first. Then you're good. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah. You have to go through those peaks and valleys too of it not feeling well and struggling.
I would go around the neighborhoods and pick up all those 4x8 plastic political signs, and I'd turn them over, cut them up in pieces. And that's because I didn't have money for signs. Yeah. So I was going and taking all the old signs, flipping them over, had my Windex and my rag, and I would be wiping them down and find the blank side. And I would use the blank side of everything in the world I could cut into a piece that was big enough to write something on.
Whatever it takes, right, Mitch?
Yeah. But then, that was even before a lot of this technology. Did you find some technology that you started to sink into?
Yeah, I mean, it's amazing times we live in now, really. I mean, there's so many tools out there. But yeah, I mean, right when I started, you start using a lot of the free stuff. Obviously, that's so the free services like Zillows, the Redfins, whatever you can get your hands on. Because yeah, when you do start, you don't have all this capital, you don't know where to apply it. So I didn't want to start buying tons of stuff. I started really what was the basic necessity, and that was really lists. You know, how do you get lists? How do you work lists? Also, how do you comp, right? That was an issue that I had early on.
Comps is a big problem, and that's a major point because I think the whole everything that we do begins with the ability to assess value. Because if you can't assess value accurately, you're sunk.
Right, right, and I mean that's the biggest deal. And when you start, your offer is going to be dependent on your understanding or your ability to get comps, right? So if your tool or however you get that information isn't effective, your offers are going to be off. You're not going to get deals. You might get undercut or overbid, whatever it may be. So having that was important, right? So in the beginning, yeah, I was using a lot of the free tools. Then you start going up over the deep end, right? You start going and getting everything. I started getting some deals in. I started doing some PPC. I started going here. I started going there. But again, Mitch, you get distracted by things that are out there. So you need to focus. Focus. What I ended up finding about a year ago, which was amazing. And the funny story is a good friend of mine actually has had this company for a long time. We hadn't talked for a while, but, we had reconnected about a year and a half ago. And he was like, yeah, man, we're updating our software. I believe you're in real estate. I'd love for you to take a look at this. And I started taking a look, and sure enough, man, he's got this amazing, data platform that they were rolling out. They were actually rolling out a newer version of it. He's like, man, take a look at it. Tell me how it works, in what you do. So that's kind of what led me to using this tool called Propstream, which was it was like a game changer, really, for me, because being able to depend on myself and not having to depend on, so-and-so for MLS access or so-and-so to pull a list for me. I was able to go in there, start doing comps for myself, because this application allows you to kind of check all the solds, all the MLS solds.
That's an important feature because for a long time, if you weren't a realtor or a member of the board of realtors, you couldn't get to that. And
the biggest problem. Yeah.
It was a big problem. You were having to deal with realtors on their time frame and waiting for them to give you comps, and you can't steal houses in slow motion. So
as a newbie, everybody's talking about the magic grail of the MLS, and you're like, oh, how do I get the MLS? So you're always struggling to get that. But when I got my hands on this tool, it was amazing. It really, really changed what I was doing, how I was pulling my lists, really refining my comps. And so much so, I love the application so much so that I've actually come on board. I've joined the team as product development and business development for the team over at Propstream.
Okay, so if you want to learn more about all the things that this data tool can offer, go to reinvestorsummit.com/data, DATA, and there'll be a whole host of things. Is there anything they offer for free to the listeners, or is there anything that they can do there?
Yeah. You can go on, you can try the application for 7 days. You get a 7-day free trial. You can run it through its paces in your market. I mean, literally what I tell everybody is test it out. The name of our game in this business, we're investors, but we're also marketers. It's really about testing. So I always suggest anybody, get a trial account of Propstream, try it out, test it out in your market, run some comps, check your numbers, and see now that you have access, where else you might want to tap into. It's a nationwide platform, right? And that is something that used to limit folks, right? They maybe had access or tools in their area, in their county. But now, maybe you can check on the county that you didn't have, or the state that you were looking at some leads you just threw away before.
Because you're a virtual wholesaler, right? So you buy, do you buy literally all over the country, or are there a handful of states that you like to buy in?
Oh, right now I'm in a couple different markets in a state. but I am looking at going outside of that state shortly. I'm out here in Southern California, and I have some partners in different markets in South Florida and Southwest Florida. And because it is technology, and also because of relationships, I was able to find some good partners, good tools that I can actually do deals from 3,000 miles away.
Yeah. So you're using these tools to find lists, to find comps, to just mine for deals or houses that have been on the market for a long time or just came on the market. But so it's got a whole bunch of different features. It's kind of like MLS, except for I don't know that you can do that much sorting on MLS. It sounds like this data platform, you can sort through different filters, maybe more filters than MLS, right?
Yeah, there's an abundant list of filters that you can apply on your list. Just on the MLS data front, I mean, we have sales, pendings, expireds, and then we have non-listed properties, of course, non-owner occ, owner occ, the whole world of properties, and then you can filter them down based on equity, property characteristics, and many filters. I mean, I can go on and on. Really, the best way is, take a look at it, download it. It's free. It's not going to cost you anything for 7 days. Look at all the filter options right there, and you're able to really niche down lists. A lot of folks get tied up with pulling these giant lists. Hey, maybe that is your marketing strategy and you're targeting large, vast areas, or maybe you're looking for more of a refined niche list, and the tool can help you either way.
Well, I think when you're broke and you don't have a large budget, you got to run it through more filters so you spend less money and get a smaller list, but a better quality list, right? Makes common sense, right?
Absolutely, Mitch.
So if you're broke and can't afford to mail to a big list, make sure the little list that you're mailing to has been sifted through a bunch of filters so that it has a high probability that they are very motivated to deal with you. So you've been doing this business for 3.5 years, and you've been doing some virtual wholesaling. If any of this is too personal, you don't have to ask it, but I want to say, how has your life changed financially? And are you financially independent at this point, or are you still working towards that end goal?
No, I mean, I'm financially independent. I feel like I'm independent as a person as well. Not only on a financial aspect, but real estate really changed, the course of my life, because it started to, I started to focus on self-improvement, and really how to become a better person, better leader, a better overall around good person, through reading books, through listening to podcasts, just self-improving, where maybe I hadn't done that in the earlier stages of my life, but real estate has actually kind of, put the light on this path that I didn't know was there. So obviously the money is fantastic. Obviously, the money that you get from real estate is amazing, but really the course and the mindset shifts that occurred to me when I found this business is really the biggest impact to me. So
wholesaling is kind of a one and done and one and done and one and done. Have you created any cash flow, any kind of strategies that are giving you cash flow?
Right. So we're looking at some cash flow markets, some rental markets. I was wholesaling down in South Florida, not necessarily a cash flow market, if you will. And now that I'm out here in Southern California, this market's ridiculous out here as well.
Yeah, it's hard.
But I have it. That's definitely something that I need to start focusing on, and that's where some of my time has been spent. This last couple of months, really kind of looking at what I'm going to do there. But I have to start growing that part of my business as well.
Well, may I suggest a book by this guy I know personally, My Life in 1,000 Houses: The Art of Owner Financing. It's interesting, the other side of the coin of the buy and hold. It's two sides of that coin. A lot of people don't know that. So there's a way to create cash flow without having to have all those liabilities that you have as a landlord. So where you just get the check, be the bank, get the check, don't get the phone calls. But there's always a plus and a minus, so you have to decide which one's right for you. But if you're interested, I'll send you a copy of that book myself. After the show, get me an address. And so are you single, married, got kids, what?
Married. We have one daughter. So it's the three of us. So it's
Were they involved in the business?
Well, you know, they're involved in my everyday up and down, you know, yay or ooh, you know, kind of stuff. Are they involved on the business aspects? No, they're just my supportive, loving family. You know,
You know, I always tell people, be careful if you get all your family in the business, because what the problem is you're doing all this not really for the money, you're doing it for the independence, right?
right,
And
right,
so when you finally get independent and you say, all right, I want to take a month off with my family, but if your family's all in your business working, it's like, then your whole business is going to shut down when you leave. So maybe you shouldn't have your family working in the business, so that when it's time to go and reap the fruits of your reward, you know, the rewards, that you can go. Because I actually got trapped in that myself once upon a time. And I know a lot of people that got in that trap,
right.
not thinking about it.
Yeah, you know, my wife and I like to travel. We like to disconnect and literally go into the woods and cut out for, you know, a week at a time or something like that. We really appreciate our downtime. You know, she's my wife is currently still, you know, working in her industry, and you know, we appreciate our downtime. So we support each other on our wins, support each other on our losses, but we definitely keep that separate so we can keep the harmony, you know.
Okay, so you got Flex and Flip on your shirt. Tell us a little bit about that, because you're a bodybuilder, gone real estate investor. So tell us a little bit about Flex and Flip. I'm curious, because there's got to be a story behind that somewhere.
Right. So when I started real estate, you know how the internet is, and selfies and posting and checking in, you know, after what seemed to me in the beginning of trying to find property, you know, days of knocking on doors and just struggling, I at the end of the day, I'd end up going to the gym, and that's how I would, you know, get my frustration or whatever out. And I'd start tagging Flex and Flip. I was a bodybuilder. I used to compete. Just a fun way to connect my two worlds, right? So I started posting, you know, here and there. I started to notice that some people were kind of, you know, gravitating to that. They realized that, oh, look, there's this investor guy that's like working out and checking in at the gym all the time. What's this about? You know what happened from that? I started connecting with people for meetings. So instead of, you know, hey, do you want to get up for, you know, a coffee or lunch? It's, hey, do you want to meet up and let's have a workout, and then let's talk about business afterward. So it kind of became my calling card of sorts, and that's kind of been my calling card of who I am. I'm the Flex and Flip guy. I'm the guy that really uses the discipline and the mindset of focus, doing the work. I've applied that into my business, and that's kind of really what drives me every day.
Well, man, I appreciate that you took the time to do this. I think it's great that you took two passions, kind of morphed them together. I mean, it doesn't have to be the end all. It doesn't have to be, but there is a certain group of people that, you know, man, the world's so big these days, you can find a group for almost anything in the world. So to think that lifting weights and flipping houses would be some kind of stretch, it's not a stretch at all.
Well, look at it this way, right? Health and fitness are super important to just our overall well-being, right? We get into this business to, you know, to build wealth and build what we're working on, right? And we want to make sure that we're around to enjoy that as long as possible. So my message to folks is, it doesn't matter if you're a bodybuilder. It doesn't matter if you just like to go walk around, you know, your neighborhoods. Get out there, stay healthy, you know, make sure you enjoy, you know, this beautiful thing that you've been building here through this business.
Absolutely. So go to reinvestorsummit.com/data and check out what Paul Del Pozo uses to build his lists, to do his comps, to even find deals from MLS. Check it out. It's a national data system. I think this is important to my listeners too, because a lot of them want MLS access, and it's not always been readily available, not so easy to find. So go there if you need MLS access, but you're not an agent or you're not a broker and you don't care to become one, then go over to reinvestorsummit.com/data and check out this source of data, this new tool. And it's pretty vast and deep and wide. And I think it should accomplish just about everything you want to do. And you don't have to become a real estate agent or become a member of the board of realtors or anything like that. And you can get right in the game and not have to ask people's permission or beg people to pull comps for you or anything like that. So again, reinvestorsummit.com/data. Paul, any words of wisdom for maybe someone contemplating getting into the real estate game?
Word of wisdom is get into it now. Don't wait. It's going to change your life. Focus, stay on the path, do the work, and real estate will be what you're looking for.
Well, good deal, man. I appreciate you. I appreciate all the listeners out there. Thank you very much for stopping by to get you some Paul Del Pozo over in Southern California. He's a virtual flipper and uses a unique data mining tool that's nationwide and available for anyone to use. It'll solve a big problem for a lot of people. This is Mitch Stephen. We're out of here right now, I guess. Paul, thanks for stopping by.
Thanks, Rick.